So this right here is a video by somebody we have seen content from before, and I like scrolling down, by the way, so you can see the name of the creator and also the title here as well. So this right here is the video, WoW 2026, Best Case versus Worst Case by Ivan the Space Biker. Let's
What's
find out.
the best and worst case scenario for World of Warcraft in 2026? I know this might sound weird coming from me, but I'm actually an optimistic person, despite how negative I am about the game in my videos lately. Still, I really don't buy into the hype that 2026 is going to be the biggest year in World of Warcraft's history, and I saw that opinion quite a lot around YouTube. If anything, I think
Hey, this guy has probably seen my videos, because I've been saying this a lot. I think this year will be one of the biggest years for WoW, and not just because of Classic Plus announcement, because I think that's happening at BlizzCon 2026, but it's just like, we have TBC anniversary right now, and we will have a Midnight WoW as well for retail enjoyers coming out in March. Then we have a BlizzCon 2026, where they are doing two things, very likely. They are announcing Classic Plus, and very likely when it's coming out as well. And they are also probably going to be announcing and talking about The Last Titan for retail, which is the third and final installment of like this whole World Soul saga that we have in retail. So I think it's a big year. It's going to be covering basically the future of retail and the future of Classic at the same time.
it's shaping up to be one of the weaker ones, but that's fine, kind of. Because I think 2027 will be that great year, and
Okay,
in a
why?
way 2026 being weak will help the next one shine even brighter. I'd love for 2026 to surprise me, but realistically it's gonna be a boring year if you ask me. So let's talk about what's actually coming in 2026. For classic players, it's TBC again. There are some tweaks here and there, but let's be real, it's basically the same TBC we played a few years ago, and not that different from the 2007 version either. I see the hype building up, but believe me, it will not last. And this isn't
Not that different from the 2007 version? I mean, bro, with the knowledge people have now, it's already like massively different than the 2007 version. And then TBC Classic in itself was already different than the like previous version. This one we have dual spec from the start. Shaman, raid-wide heroism / bloodlust. Terror cones increase spawn rates. Post-nerf raids, pre-nerf dungeons. Soul of Iron buff for hardcore players. Just to name a few so far. I mean, also, saying that the TBC, the first version, isn't like Classic, isn't that far off 2007. We had level 58 boosts. If you went back in time to 2007 and you told people, at some point, you're gonna play TBC and have a level 58 boost that you can just buy and skip to level 58, they would look at you and they would tell you this version of the game will be so dead. You know?
TBC hate.
And now you also get a mount, like a flying mount. The mount you're getting, by the way, when you buy the pack is basically like the gladiator mounts. They are the only ones with that tint and that armor.
I'll play it too, and I like TBC. The problem is retention. Vanilla kept people hooked somewhat because the whole world mattered. In TBC it doesn't. Everything happens in Outland. Leveling is way faster, especially when most of us start at 60, and once you hit endgame, if you're not into PvP, it's still raid logging with a few extra steps. That's actually why I'm skipping raiding this time, for the most part, and I'm gonna try to give PvP a fair shot for the first time ever. Outside of PvP though, TBC is basically a smaller vanilla. Better balance, better raids for sure.
Like, in theory, this makes a lot of sense, by the way, because in Classic, usually the world matters a lot, and you do basically go through the entire world, every single zone, you experience more of what the game has to offer. But the way Classic people play the game, it just doesn't play out that way. It works differently. Because in Classic WoW, the way people level, and when I say people, I mean a lot of people level this way, they simply buy gold. They find a mage and they buy a mage boost, and they AFK at the start of a dungeon until they get to level 60, and then they buy even more gold They do some dungeons to get pre-raid abyss, they do raids, they buy flasks, they buy everything they can to like help them improve in raids, and then they simply raid log. The only way that the world matters really is when getting the world buffs, in which case you have taxi services set up, so you pay a warlock to summon you, you go talk to an NPC in Dire Maul, get world buffs, get summoned to Booty Bay, get world buffs, Hearthstone back to Orgrimmar, or Stormwind, get world buffs, go to the raid. In theory, everything he says makes complete sense so far, but in reality and the way people play, the world doesn't really matter that much in Classic anymore. It used to at some point, but now a lot more people are more willing to like just simply buy gold and then spend that gold on mage boost, consumes, buffs, you name it. Way bigger percentage of the player base currently buys gold than in 2019. There is not even a question in that sentence, by the way. That is a fact.
Sure, but you hit the okay, now what moment even faster. Your options are to level another character or PvP, and most players aren't into that either. And on top of all of that, I don't think TBC will generate the same community moments or organic events that Vanilla did either. We already know Soda Poppin is gonna run some PvP tournament, and that's gonna be insanely fun to watch, but by the nature of it, it will not last long. There's also talk about TBC Hardcore, where opinions are split, but I don't think it's gonna work. Yes, TBC has way more stuff that's just not compatible with hardcore, random instant deaths in raids.
Is this a dick-sucking competition?
Pure RNG nonsense, but that's not even the main issue for me. The real problem is once again the leveling, because hardcore WoW was fun to play and to watch so far, not because of raiding. That's a 4-hour weekly event, but because of the hundreds of hours before that, the leveling part. And the biggest sin that started all the way back in TBC was slowly killing the relevance of leveling. In TBC, a ton of elite quests in the old world were tuned into normal quests. For example, the Red Ridge Mountains elites. They are gone, and now you can just solo all of those quests like any others. Leveling is fast.
Yeah, dude, my shaman right now, my Draenei shaman that I'm leveling in the pre-patch is level 37. The amount of elite quests that are no longer elite is kind of crazy, by the way, and it really helps you speed up leveling, because now, especially in the pre-patch as well, when there's not too many people to group it all the time, like, they introduced the level 58 boost, so there's less people now than there otherwise would be, right? It's great, though, that now I don't have to rely on finding groups, especially in this stage of the game. Like, on a fresh server where everybody's leveling, having group quests is cool, because then there's a sense of you need people. But in that case, there's a need for people, and there are people as well. It's supply and demand. When you join a game late, and a lot of quests are like, oh, you have to kill elites, here, find a group, and everybody's level 60, what you gonna do? You have to beg a level 60 to help you do those quests, or simply skip them. Meanwhile now, leveling is more smooth to me because I don't have to skip a quest. Many of the quests are soloable. That being said, one of the quests that I am doing, that I have been doing, I don't remember which one it was, but one of the quests still had, oh yeah, the Red Ridge quest he talked about. The 2 elite bosses are still elite. You need to play a very specific class to solo those bosses. I don't remember the names of them, but it's a Gath Ilsog, I think, and Thar something. But yeah, these 2 orc bosses basically in the area he's talking about, and where he is now. The other mobs are no longer elite, but the 2 bosses, they still are. So you kind of want to have a group for those 2 bosses, still.
Across the board, especially from 1 to 60, and quests and dungeon rewards are stronger and more flexible. You get your mount for cheaper and at level 30, and all of this exists for one reason: to push you through the dark portal faster, out of the old boring world and into Outland, where the real fun begins, right? And that's why hardcore in TBC completely falls apart, because you will die in Outland. We don't know those quests as well, dungeons are way more dangerous, especially heroics. And if you somehow make it all the way to 70 and get into a raid, is much harder to do than it was in vanilla. And when people die in hardcore, one of 2 things happen: they quit or they go again. As long as people go again, hardcore lives. But here's the problem: going again in TBC sucks. The first 60 levels aren't the challenge anymore. They're just homework. Everyone knows the real hardcore run only starts once you cross the dark portal. And everything before that is basically child's play. That alone kills a ton of the hype to reroll. And it really matters that the 1 to 60 feels so much worse to play through, because even if it's faster, 1 to 16 TBC still takes a lot of time. Unless Blizzard is willing to fundamentally rethink TBC leveling specifically for hardcore, which they won't and they shouldn't, there isn't a real solution. A level 60 checkpoint you reset after death, I think that cheapens the whole thing, at least for me. So as far as TBC goes, I think it's going to be the...
Okay, so I want to pitch an idea here, by the way. This might be the best idea in the world, or the worst one, and I do know for a fact this has to be possible, by the way. So what if, when you get to level 60 on hardcore servers, it creates a snapshot of your character the moment you ding level 60. So like, not any raid gear, not anything else, just the moment you hit level 60, it creates a snapshot of your character. And if you die, you get reset back to that snapshot. We already know this snapshotting mechanic worked, by the way, because this is what they used to be able to transfer people to Classic Era back in the day when you created a character copy. It created a snapshot of your character, their own words, I believe. So they snapshotted your character, and you could basically transfer that snapshot to Classic Era while you keep playing your regular character. So they can use the same snapshot mechanic in hardcore as well, where once again at level 60, they create a snapshot of your character internally that they can automate, and then if you ever die, instead of going back to 0 or level 1 or having to delete, you simply revert back to level 60. Wouldn't that be the best way to play TBC hardcore, possibly? Because that way you don't have to do what he just said. Because yes, at some point when you are good at the game, level 1 to 60 is basically child's play, and you just... the real game for hardcore starts at level 60 or in Outland, right? It's just, it's a needless grind, and it creates a massive barrier to entry before the actual content begins for a lot of people. Because the leveling part isn't really the problem, because leveling is the same. 1 to 60 in Classic WoW versus 1 to 70 in TBC is pretty much exactly the same amount of hours / played. The problem is the hours spent before the challenge starts in TBC, right? Like he said. So that snapshot mechanic, I believe, could be great, but then again, it's kind of a gimmicky mechanic, this death equals level 60, not death equals delete, but you know, I think this could be great. I don't know, let me know what you think.
Damn same thing we got last time, super fun at the start, then the hype dies down, comes back a bit with the new patch, and so on. The big difference is that this time it will start with fewer players and less hype overall. When it comes to vanilla, I don't think Classic Plus is coming this year. If it does happen, it will be at the very end of the year, after BlizzCon. They will definitely announce something there. I mean, if they don't, that would be unbelievably bad. I mean, expectations are low, but that would remind us to never underestimate Blizzard, I guess. So
I have two takes on this, and I don't know which one is gonna happen, but they could both happen. So here's the thing. BlizzCon this year is happening earlier than it ever has, I believe. Like, it's happening in September. Usually it's October or November, right? So it's happening 1 or 1.5 months earlier than it usually does. And you have to wonder why. My take number 1 is that they are doing BlizzCon early this year to give us Classic Plus later this year. This is also kind of backed up by most WoW expansions being in the later half of the year, and the later half of this year we have nothing. TBC is in February, Midnight is in March, so like technically there is nothing in the last half of this year, and you will know that Blizzard really wants to pump their quarterly earnings later this year as well. I believe there's a new StarCraft game that is headlining BlizzCon this year, but still, I think Classic Plus is happening this year as well. My take number 1, once again, going back to that statement here, take number 1, BlizzCon is earlier this year, and then they announced Classic Plus is coming out in November. So the reason why BlizzCon is early is to start generating hype, or get some betas out there, some public test realms, allow people to create content, massive hype spike, and then the game comes out. This is usually how Blizzard likes to announce the things as well, by the way, and release them, especially the Classic WoW team. Remember Season of Discovery? They gave you like 2 weeks heads up. They were like announcing this whole great thing, and then they said, you can play this on that date, and that was like 2 or 3 weeks away. It was really close. So using that same mentality and the way they have been communicating recently, where TBC pre-patch, TBC announcement, they gave us 6 days before the TBC pre-patch. They love giving you an announcement right before the game comes out. So to me, BlizzCon is early this year because Classic Plus is coming out and they want to generate a short window of massive hype before launch. But the second take is that Classic Plus is being announced at BlizzCon this year, and they are actually giving themselves time to work on it, and they are doing open beta weekends and some like actual public testing or test realming, and Classic Plus comes out in the first half of next year. That is the other take.
Expecting nothing for anniversary or era, just regular vanilla. The same way it was in 2025 and 24 and 23, just with less activity overall, and fewer big community events like OnlyFans. My prediction is simple, either we get Classic Plus at the very end of the year, or we only get the big announcement.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, private servers keep growing and implementing more and more interesting ideas, which is becoming a real problem for Blizzard. Even if Classic Plus does come out this year, it's still incredibly late to the party. Retail is where things could actually be super good. Could Midnight be so good that it turns 2026 into one of Blizzard's best years? I mean, it's not impossible, but it's very...
I personally don't think so. I don't think there's so many new things coming out in Midnight. Like, if you look at Midnight right now, it looks like more of a DLC to the War Within. They're using many of the same currencies, but I don't think this is a bad thing, by the way. I think that it looks like an expansion to the War Within is great, because that is what it is. It is the expansion after the War Within. So, and it's also part of a trilogy. We have the War Within, Midnight, and finally the Last Titan, and they're all part of this whole World of Soul saga thing they have going on, so it makes sense that they're all kinda similar. You shouldn't really expect any massive changes until whatever they announce after the Last Titan, right? Unless the Last Titan is the last expansion, which I would be surprised, because they want to milk this IP, man.
Unlikely. Player housing is great. It's a strong system, very casual, and it gives players real ways to express themselves in the game without compromising the...
Define good? I can't, because people, like, good is subjective. Some people think a Shadow Priest is good in Classic. Some people think a Boomkin is top DPS in TBC. Now, these things can always be backed up by numbers, but in real life, some people like handball, some people like football, some people like dancing, some people like making music, some people like playing WoW, and some people like working out. It's no definitive answer on what's good.
Vibe for the rest of the people. Unlike cringe pink fairy wings transmogs that completely destroy Warcraft's vibe. That said, the new housing microtransaction is absolutely horrible and you should hate it. Blizzard just couldn't let a win be a win. And what else do we actually know about Midnight? The only thing we know for sure is that the hype is at an all-time low, starting with that horrible announcement trailer. If the expansion ends up being amazing, it will pull through. But even in that best case scenario, low launch hype will hurt it long term. And beyond that, everything is just guessing. And if I had to guess, I wouldn't be overly optimistic anyway. Combat is going to be good. Since Dragonflight, especially Season 1 and 2 of Dragonflight, they've been doing a genuinely great job with Mythic Plus and the general gameplay of the game. Dragonflight's story and the vibe were complete garbage. Everything about it sucked. And I still played those first 2 seasons purely because Mythic Plus was so good. Weird take from a classic candy, I know. Raiding is always fun, they're not going to mess that up. Delves exist and I'll assume they will be better this time, so solo players still have progression paths through the patch. Combat add-ons being gone is a very good thing. There will be problems at launch because of that, probably, but over a few patches they will balance it out. Classes are gonna be a bit simpler, which is also very good. Gameplay wise, I think Midnight will be actually really good. But I'm also about
This is the take that I have as well, by the way. I love what they're doing to class tuning or pruning, basically cutting the number of buttons you have to press, because like in retail, there's just so many buttons. But I mean, in Classic as well, there are quite a lot of buttons you're pressing if you're doing your rotation the full way, and in PvP as well, for example, there's a lot of buttons that you have to press. But yeah, like I just like what they're doing here and making the game easier to understand, meanwhile keeping a certain level of the depth there. They're basically making it easier for really bad players to do well, meanwhile still allowing good players to shine as well. In a weird way, is how I feel about it, and really like it.
99% sure it will suck big time in all of the other areas. Progression is permanently fucked. This is a seasonal grind game, not an MMO. Whatever you did before the last patch dropped no longer matters. You're not playing an expansion, you're not even playing an MMO, you're playing a patch. That's their philosophy now, it's not changing and it will hold the game back forever. The new player experience will still be an absolute joke, and that's also never changing in retail, so the player base stays the same, mostly 40-year-old addicts who will never quit. Content creators aren't coming back either, the game is boring to watch and boring to talk about, online presence is dead, last time it was alive was BFA over 7 years ago, retail is either extremely casual, normal, heroic dungeons, LFR, transmog, mounts, pets, housing decor, pet battles, which nobody wants to watch, or it's ultra sweaty like Mythic Plus and Mythic Grading or high-end PvP, which only other sweats can follow and which doesn't allow for real communication anyway. All hype around retail World of Warcraft content died after Shadowlands and it's not coming back. Then there's the lore.
Down, I will never serve!
I mean, here's the thing, that's a popular take to have for any Classic Andy out there. But as somebody who makes content for both Classic and retail, and also I talk to other content creators as well, there's a reason why almost every Classic content creator that actually produces good numbers also makes retail content for the first month. Like, even people that you see them shitting on retail all the time, they also start making retail content for the first, like, 1 or 2 months. And they make numbers. Some of these Classic people, by the way, their retail videos are their most viewed videos of all time. Even if they only / primarily make Classic content and they make like one retail video every... Like, they make one retail video every 3 years if the moon aligns with the stars. Right? And that's going to be their most viewed video. So if there's nobody interested in retail, the interest in anything else out there, like any other version of the game, there's literally zero then. Because I'm just gonna say it the way it is, there's more people playing retail than Classic. Feel how you want to feel about that, by the way, and that's okay. But I like both. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, Classic is so good and retail is dead. It's a fun meme that Classic people enjoy, saying that retail is dead and stuff. But yeah.
Her presence, it was beautiful.
Ah, now I understand. I thought to survive, we needed to reclaim our aspectral powers. But they were never ours to take.
It was about coming together as a family.
And so we did.
Perhaps as we were always meant to.
All of us.
Nice.
I can't say this with 100% certainty, but if I was a betting man, I would bet confidently on the lore being shit. Full of plot holes.
Yeah, I will say, by the way, I've hated the lore ever since probably, had, I think after Warlords, it just went weird for me. I think Legion, the lore in Legion was pretty alright. Warlords as well kind of made sense if you really wanted it to, I guess. Plus Legion came after Warlords, so yeah, everything after Legion to me, the lore just went weird. Or actually, maybe BFA was a turning point, where it was like friendship between Alliance and Horde. Yeah, maybe BFA was a turning point, so like everything after Legion then, right?
Super soft, painfully mediocre at best, and barely Warcraft at all. Probably at the level of the War Within, which was better than Dragonflight, which was better than Shadowlands, but that's not impressive when Shadowlands was rock bottom.
You know what? I have another take. I think Dragonflight was worse than Shadowlands, man. I really do. I like the lore in Shadowlands now, maybe. Like, in hindsight, I think he's right, because like they've retconned so much of the lore in Shadowlands to like where nothing makes sense now, and we should probably just not have played that expansion, or the lore should have been vastly different, because everything we have done after Shadowlands just makes all of the Shadowlands stuff invalidated. The lore is literally retconned. It's just like, why, you know? But when I played it, the lore was kind of cool, but Dragonflight, I'm just like, what are we doing?
The War Within barely managed to hit that mediocre plateau at times. So I expect Midnight to land around the same level overall, maybe a tiny bit better. And before anyone says, but Chris Madsen, look, he was the guy behind one of the best universes gaming has ever seen. He isn't anymore. I have no real reason to believe he still has what it takes to make Warcraft good again, and even if he did, which he might, he's still just one guy on a team full of people who clearly like this. So I don't think it matters that much. So yeah, Midnight will probably be a solid modern World of Warcraft expansion. And that's it. Amazing combat, great raids, good Mythic Plus, and everything beyond that, from being an actual MMO to the lore and the vibe of the game, will be bad. It will come out, retail players will like it a lot, and it will pass. That's it. But who knows, we will see. I will review it anyway. As for extra stuff, I don't think we're getting a new Seasonal Classic server. I mean, I hope we don't. Seasonal goes against what Classic fundamentally is, and even more against what an MMO is supposed to be. On top of that, it would certainly mean Classic Plus isn't happening until late 2020.
This is like how I feel as well, by the way. Seasons in World of Warcraft or MMORPGs in general is just so antithetical to what MMOs are. You want to know the future of your character and/or that your time investment is valued long term. When you have a season of something, it's built into the name that the season is ending, and unless you know exactly what happens at the end of the season so you can plan for it, it's just such disrespect towards your time. Which is how I felt about Season of Discovery. They never told you what would happen to your character until the absolute end, and even then as well, they haven't really fully told you yet exactly what's happening. They just said that they're going to keep the service online for now, or until further notice. It's just like, at any point they could take the service down, and then what do you do? Are you going to Classic Era, Season of Discovery Era? Are they actually going to keep Discovery Era realms alive when they have like almost no people on them? You know? I don't know. They need to be clear about what happens at the end of the season from the start of the season. Otherwise, don't do a season.
27 at the absolute best, but I don't think Blizzard will do this. I would be amazed if they did. And I really hope they don't. Please, Blizzard, no more seasonal trash. Now, Warlords of Draenor Classic, I have no idea. It simply won't work without major changes to the original expansion. That expansion needs a lot more content, and Blizzard will not start adding new content to Warlords of Draenor Classic. And even if they did, I'm not sure it would pull a great number of players anyway. I think there are two realistic outcomes here. One, they just release Warlords of Draenor Classic, but they keep it on live support from day one. Bare minimum effort, bare minimum interest, done mostly so they can later cash in on the last genuinely great expansion World of Warcraft ever had, Legion, and maybe make some money from WoD too. Or they stop here. Classic expansion re-releases are over, Vanilla, TBC and Wrath of the Lich King get their little permanent homes, maybe some remix style events now and then, and all the real focus shifts to only Classic Plus and Retail. Those two feel the most likely to me. There is a third option. They actually put in effort and try to fix Warlords of Draenor. Add a new raid tier, maybe bring Mythic Plus in early so there's actually something to do. Extremely unlikely, but it's the last possibility I could think of. Either way, we're clearly approaching the end of...
I agree with everything you just said there, by the way. The third option is an option, but it's so unlikely, it basically is not an option. It is the third option they have, but they will never do it. Mark my words, they will never do it. So it's option 1 or option 2. And I completely agree.
Classic expansion re-releases.
Yeah. And then...
they might also bring back Plunderstorm or something similar.
Yay.
That would give us something fun to do for a month or two, and honestly...
Dude, am I the only one who's kind of surprised, by the way, that they've taken down Plunderstorm for so long? I was so sure that Plunderstorm was something they did to, like, beta test this as a game, and they were gonna come out with Plunderstorm as an actual game. Not just like a WoW play mode or a game mode, but an actual game that they were developing. But it ended up just being here for 2 short seasons almost.
I would like that. I really enjoyed Plunderstorm. With more abilities, more maps, more dumb fun, it would be even better. And I hope it happens, but even if it does, it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. And what else? Season of Discovery fresh? I guess that could happen. Personally, I would not care about that at all, but I know some people would. Not many, but enough to form a small dedicated group for a while. And I guess, sure, there's always room for surprises, but outside of something genuinely unexpected, this feels like the most likely average outcome for the year. In short, nothing super exciting. And that matters, especially coming after 2025, which also wasn't a very exciting year, at least not the second half of it. I think 2026 will be below average, and the fact that it follows another fairly average year only makes it feel even worse. On the retail side, they've kind of lost the plot years ago, and on the classic side, hope still exists, but goddamn they are so slow to realize what actually needs to be done. Either way, I genuinely don't understand where all this hype for 2026 is coming from. What would be the realistic best case scenario? I think they announced Classic Plus on September 12th and hit us with the "and it's available today" line, or at least it launches later this year and actually slaps, like players come back in huge numbers, even people that never played WoW give it a shot because of how good it is. Midnight manages to bring back some actual Warcraft feeling in terms of lore and vibe, and they finally make the new player experience at least acceptable. During slower periods we get fun stuff like remix style events or Plunderstorm. The Last Titan gets announced at the end of the year and it actually looks super cool. We skip Warlords of Draenor entirely and go straight to a proper Legion Classic re-release. Permanent vanilla TBC and Wrath era servers are established without WoW tokens, and that's the best case scenario, that's still at least somewhat possible. As for the worst case scenario, that exists too. BlizzCon rolls around and for Classic, we get another seasonal server announcement, or Classic Plus, but with a 2027 release date and looking rough. Stuff like level boosts and tokens make an appearance, and everything feels super out of touch.
Now, here's the thing for Classic Plus, by the way. We are going to get Classic Plus without any form of like token stuff or anything for about a year. But after that year is over, they're gonna smack us with like, level boost, WoW token, or maybe like 1.5 years. It's the same thing as Classic WoW, right? We played Classic WoW for 1.5 years, and then when they announced TBC, that is when they smacked you with like, oh, now we're gonna milk. It's basically you get a cow, you feed the cow, you let the cow live a great life, and then you milk it for milk. In this case, you simply give people what they want. You allow them to have fun and develop an attachment to their character, and then you milk them. You don't milk them from the start, because that's when they quit. You want them to be attached to both the game and the character first, and then you start milking. Which is exactly what they're gonna do. Classic Plus will be here, we can enjoy it for like between 1 and 2 years, and then they introduce level boosts and everything. Which is gonna be great. But what I was gonna say here is, he said in his video early that he doesn't think this year will be the biggest year we have. But he also said that this year we're probably getting the announcement of what's happening to Mists of Pandaria. Anniversary, let me just cover what's probably happening this year, like what we have confirmed and what's probably happening. So what we know is happening this year is that we now have TBC's pre-patch leading into TBC in February. In March, we have Midnight WoW expansion. So that is already 2 expansions to the game. One is like a rerun, TBC that is, like, this is TBC again. Midnight is a huge expansion coming out this year for retail. And then we have BlizzCon this year. At BlizzCon, we are likely getting Classic Plus announcement and the Last Titan announcement. So we already have 5 massive things happening this year. In addition to that, we have Mists of Pandaria Classic, where they will likely talk about the future sometime this year as well, where either Mists of Pandaria gets converted to retail, or we get Warlords of Draenor. So this year, we have the future of Classic, Mists of Pandaria Classic, and retail. Which year is going to be bigger than this year? I don't get it. I don't think it's an overstatement saying that 2026 will be the biggest year for WoW. I don't think so.
Midnight gets released and is shit on all sides, not just on the lore and the vibe side, but for gameplay systems too. Think about Shadowlands or BFA for example. No more classic expansions, and on top of that, also no remix events, no Plunderstorm, nothing like that to fill the gaps. If all of that happened, I genuinely think World of Warcraft is done, out of relevancy, for good. At that point, we call it a good run and GG. That said, if I had to choose between the best and the worst case scenario, I actually think the best case scenario is way more likely. Anyway, all that being said, 2027 does look really hot and interesting. In terms of potential, that's the year that could genuinely shake Warcraft. Classic Plus is almost certainly a thing by then, and for retail, that's also when we're gonna start hearing about what comes after the World Soul Saga, after The Last Titan. I've always felt that WoW 2, or something close to that, it's a real possibility at that point. Maybe not a full sequel, but a massive overhaul from the ground up, including the base engine. I think we could see a big reset or a major transition of the universe maybe, with Classic Plus and Permanent Era servers keeping old Warcraft alive and even iterating on it in the case of Classic Plus. It would actually make sense to finally reset the world or push it far forward in retail. I'm not saying it will be good, but it's a massive opportunity and one that could end up being genuinely amazing.
Okay, damn. That video just ended really. Oh, yeah, okay. Nice. That was a good video. I said it again. But you know what? That was a good video. So you know what? I don't even take it back. It was good. Alright. 2026 is going to be a huge year. And I can't wait to just see everything that is unfolding. First of all, we are playing TBC at the moment. We have Midnight WoW coming out later, in about a month from now as well. And then we have BlizzCon later this year. It's honestly going to be a really good year. There might be some downtime in between everything, like Midnight. Let's just say you have really fun for about 2 or 3 months. And at that point, we're in the middle of the summer, and then BlizzCon is almost happening. There's almost always something to either play, or something in the very near future to look forward to as well. I think it's going to be amazing. As a WoW content creator, and a WoW gamer as well, it is a really exciting year. I can tell you that much.